Hey friends, and welcome to class. For today, we are going to be focusing on the low back. So if you're having any increase in pain, stiffness, any kind of discomfort, you just want a little bit of relief into that space, this might be a good class for you to explore and try to create some movement and relieve some of that tension. And so with that, what I have with me today is a strap and a set of blocks. The strap I definitely recommend to kind of work through the lower body a little bit more in a nice supportive way, but then also the blocks are for a nice supportive position at the end of class. But if you have throw pillows, blankets, anything like that to bring your body a little extra support, anything that you feel would feel good in that space, you know your body best. So if you want something a little softer, go ahead and grab that and have that available for the end of class today. Okay, and so whenever you have your space, we're going to go ahead and meet in a tabletop position to start. And when coming into tabletop position, this may be a pretty easy place for you to come into right off the bat, but you might have some discomfort, some tension within the low back. And so all I want you to do, don't worry about the upper body too much, just enough to kind of keep you supportive and being mindful in that space. But what I want you to focus on is that lower part of the back. So anywhere from what you would probably feel like is the middle part of your back down to the hips. And what I want you to do is just kind of nice and slow, just shift your weight side to side, maybe even forward and back, but nothing big. Because what I want you to do in conjunction with that is just keep a nice subtle lift of the low belly so that you can support yourself through this space and you don't find yourself dipping into that big tilt of the pelvis. So I want to keep a nice flat back to some degree as we explore some nice subtle motions side to side. And this gives you the opportunity to not only loosen up the low back, but see what feels good, what doesn't. Where are you at coming onto your mat today? What are you going to be able to move through? And it just gives you a little bit of information. And keep all of the motions nice and small to start. If you're able to make them bigger, if it feels good to make them bigger, go for it. But I'm not calling for it right now if that's not something that feels good. And within the next breath or so, you're going to find your center. Okay, so at this point, we're going to be a little bit more integrated within the upper body. So pressing through the heels of the hands so that those shoulders come away from the ears. You're keeping the neck nice and long. So you're gazing anywhere between your fingertips and the top of the mat. So you're keeping your neck nice and long. You're tucking the toes underneath you. Those hips are underneath or on top of the knees. And with all four corners touching your mat, and the low belly just gently in toward the spine. We're going to press through the heels of the hands. We're going to press through the big toes, and we're just going to lift the knees up from the floor for 3, 2, 1, lower down. The idea of this little push is to get a little engagement within the spine. So we're trying to keep that integration within the low back here in this space. We're going to do 4 more rounds here. And for 3 seconds each push. For the next exhale, you're going to push for 3, 2, 1, lower all together, nice and easy. Relax for a moment. Exhale, push and hold for 3, 2, 1, lower down. 3 more. Exhale, push, 3, 2, 1, and relax. Again, bringing in that belly to support the low back as you lift. Exhale, push and hold for 3, 2, 1, lower down. Last one, push for 3, 2, 1, lower down. Relax, untuck the toes. And feel free to bring yourself to the center of the mat. You can keep your knees narrow or you can bring them a little bit wider, whatever feels good. Not too wide, but find a stance that feels comfortable and stable. And then from this space, gentle tuck of that tailbone underneath you. So you're bringing the front of your pelvis to face the back side of your wrists. And then with that subtle tuck of the pelvis, I want you to keep that tuck of the pelvis forward, that tuck of the tailbone underneath you as you shift the hips back toward your heels. Now you may feel some stretch within the low back right away. You might not feel it until the very end, but I want you to try to keep the length within the back of the spine as much as you can. And then even on that lift back up to the tabletop position, you're keeping that tailbone lengthened back behind you. And then if you'd like to unravel to a neutral spine, you're welcome to there. Not a big dip in the spine, just coming back to neutral. And we're going to do 3 more rounds of that here. So tuck the tailbone underneath you, lengthen through the low back before you get started, and then hold on to that as you start to sink the hips down toward the heels. Try not to strain through the neck. You should feel a nice stretch sensation through the low back, maybe up and into the armpits, the upper body. Keeping that tuck. And then press through the shins, heel the hands, help drag you back to tabletop position, keeping the belly engaged until you come back to tabletop. Feel free to unravel as you need. 2 more rounds, tuck it underneath you. Feel that little engagement within the low belly as you sit the hips back toward the heels. Curving through the spine, really trying to lengthen through this space. And then come back through center. Keeping that tuck all the way until you get to the top. Once you get back to that tabletop position, then you can release. Tuck that tailbone under, last round. Tuck it under, really scoop it beneath you. Lengthen all the way from the tailbone through every little piece of the lower spine. Hips to heels, pausing for just a moment. And then coming back up through center. Once you get to that tabletop, you unravel, come back to that neutral spine. And then we're going to come back, we're going to come down onto our belly. So bring the hands out in front of you, still keeping that belly button in toward the spine. And nice and slow, start to drop the hips forward. Kind of allow those elbows to bend so that your upper body is what guides you down to the floor, not your low belly slinking down toward the earth. And then once we get here, shimmy the hips side to side. If you want to place your forehead on the back of your hands or turn an ear down to the floor, you're more than welcome. But just go ahead and shimmy the front of the hips onto the earth. Kind of wake up the low back, loosen up the low back. And then we're going to work on some pelvic tilts here, but we're going to work on them on our belly here because it's going to be incorporated into our next stretch. So I want to make sure that we have this down, that we feel comfortable with this particular motion. And so from this position, okay, you're going to press the front of your pelvis down into the earth. You might start to feel more of a connection between the top part of your thigh onto your mat, and you might feel a little engagement of the glute. And then go ahead and relax. If you need to start from this position with a pillow underneath your belly, that's also an option. Coming down onto your belly, that's kind of puts us, or could put us, in a little bit more of that forward tilt of the pelvis. That could be uncomfortable on the back. So if you have a pillow, sneak that underneath your hips, right in front of your hip points there. That'll give you a better place to start from if you're having a lot more pain today. And so we're going to work on that again. You can do the same movement even with a pillow. Okay, feel free to shimmy the hips to reset, and then go ahead and on the exhale, press the front of your pelvis down into the floor. Feel that connection. Feel that lengthening within the tailbone, like you're reaching that tailbone down toward your heels or the space in between. Maybe a subtle engagement of the glutes here when you do this motion, and then go ahead and relax. 2 more, trying to allow both sides to contribute as equally as possible. Go ahead and press that pelvis down into the floor. Lengthen through the tailbone. Maybe even a little bit of a lift through the belly button. And then exhale, relax. Inhale to prepare. Exhale, pressing the pelvis down into the mat, really curling that tailbone down toward the heels. Maybe even lifting through the low belly. And then relax. All right, so now we're going to incorporate the strap. We're going to incorporate that pelvic tilt with our next movement here. And so with the strap, go ahead and make that lasso as big as you need to make this reach happen, because we're going to go ahead and loop this onto our foot, but I don't want you to feel like you're straining through the back to get there. So make this as big as you need. Bring that heel in towards your bottom. Lasso that foot up. And then grab the tail of the strap. And just kind of relax that foot down. Oh, goodness gracious. You might need to, depending on how big your loop is, you might need to kind of hold a little bit of tension in that halfway point. And we're going to first find that little tilt of the pelvis. So gently push the front of the pelvis down into the mat. That's going to give you a nice long neutral spine. And then from here, go ahead and slowly start to pull the tail of your strap out in front of you as you bring the heel toward your bottom. And then you might need to check in every once in a while. You might need to shimmy a little bit, but you're still checking in with that tilt. Are you able to push the pelvis down into the floor as you pull the heel closer toward your glute, as you find a deeper bend in that knee? And we're holding here, breathing into this space, trying to keep both hip points down onto the earth, feeling the pelvis pressing down into that, onto the mat, so that you're able to lengthen through the front of the hip as much as you're able. And if you have pretty good range of motion in this space, strap might not be needed. You can always grab hold of the top of the foot, kind of spin the shoulder out and open, and then just draw down with the heel, pressing down through the top of the foot and opening up that space. Still, again, trying to keep that little tilt of the pelvis to maximize the mobility here in this space. And then nice and slow, go ahead and let go. Release the loop from your foot, release the strap. And let's go ahead to the other side. Go ahead and loop the strap around the foot. Just release the tension just a little bit so you're not feeling a stretch right off the get-go. Reintegrate with the hips. Feel free to wiggle side to side. Pressing down into the mat. Feel that connection before you slowly start to pull and reel in the strap up and over that left shoulder. And then just drawing down with the tailbone, really reaching it down toward the heel, toward the back edge of the mat. Feeling that lengthen through the front of that thigh. And again, if you feel like you have pretty good range of motion, the strap isn't giving you all that sensation that you're looking for, if you're able to grab hold of that foot, keeping that pelvis down, and you don't even have to turn the shoulder. Just bringing that heel towards the bottom, keeping that press of the pelvis. It's only going to feel better for the low back. And avoiding any excessive motion into that space that could feel sore, that could feel tender. Nice and slow, go ahead and release the left leg. Relax the hips, shimmy side to side. And then go ahead and bring the hands underneath the shoulders. Do go ahead and make that pelvic tilt happen one more time as we're about to lift the belly off the floor. So lengthen through the tailbone, lift that low belly up and away from the earth, and slowly start to push down through the heel of the hands. Again, let the upper body do the work here to support yourself as you come up. Tabletop, child's pose, settle down. Arms stretched out in front of you. Allow the belly to rest on the thighs. And if this feels like a big motion, if this feels inaccessible to you at the moment, if you have a blanket, feel free to slip that underneath your bottom, on top of your heels. If you have a pillow, feel free to hug a big pillow out in front of you. If you have a bolster, you can hug that bolster out in front of you. Fill in the gaps wherever there seems to be space where you feel like you need support. Fill those spaces in. Nice and slow, start to use your hands to lift your body up. coming into a tall kneeling position, and then nice and slow, just kind of plop over toward the right side. Bring those legs out in front of you. Scoot your bottom toward the center of the mat-ish. And then nice and slow, go ahead and roll your back down onto the earth. Keep the blocks, the strap accessible. So with your hands scooped behind the thighs, nice and slow, feel that rounding sensation. Feel the core helping you descend onto the earth. Lower all the way down. And then go ahead and bring the feet wide, allow the knees to touch. Maybe finding a little scoop of the tailbone underneath you. Maybe that means you need to walk your feet in a little bit closer to give yourself that support. And then go ahead and grab hold of the strap. So dependent on the intensity of your discomfort, we're going to start with the right side. We're going to loop the strap around the sole of the foot. Okay, tighten up that loop so you have a good hold. And then you're going to straighten that right leg up and toward the sky. Feel free to start low and then bring yourself up into the space that you are comfortable moving through, keeping that knee straight to the best of your ability, keeping that knee straightish, okay? So a gentle engagement of the thigh as you bring that strap in towards you, bringing that leg in toward you. And part of that long and drawn out note, I meant to add that depending on the intensity of your discomfort today, you might want to keep that left knee bent to support your space. Or if you're feeling okay and want to extend that left leg out long in front of you, that'll just give you more movement within the pelvis. And so as long as that's tolerable, you're good to go and move into that space. But sometimes that movement can feel too big. And so just being aware of that, tuning into your body. And every once in a while, checking in with that knee. Are you able to tighten that thigh muscle to find a little bit more active length through the back line of that leg? Might mean dropping that foot down just a little bit more. And then nice and slow, we're going to start keeping the lift of that foot. So as the leg comes out to the side, I want you to keep lifting that foot up and toward you. So as long as it's comfortable within the front of the hip, of course. But as you drop that foot over to the side to increase that sensation within the inner thigh, you might need a little bit of a lift of that foot. So as it opens, we lift. As it opens, we lift. As it opens, we lift. Until we get to a point where we are able to feel a nice sensation within the inner lining of the thigh. Again, you're always welcome to bring the sole of the left foot down toward the earth so that knee is bent. Breathing into the areas where you feel that tension arising, where you feel that nice feel-good stretch. Try to release any other tension that is hiding within your body. You don't need it. Let the earth support you. Let the strap support you. You always have the option to place a block underneath your right foot, a pillow. If you feel like you're exploring that much space, you can always set yourself. If you feel like this stretch feels really good, you can always set yourself up against a wall and you can let your leg rest with the strap and up against the wall. That usually feels really nice working into that space. And then nice and slow, use the muscles in your belly, use the strap to support you, bring that leg in. And then keeping that lift, we're going to go ahead and move over toward the left side of the room. So we're keeping that leg straight. Feel free to exchange hands and kind of take that strap into the left hand. And you're just guiding that right leg over toward the left. And you're going to start to feel some sensation within the outer lining of the right leg. Trying to keep the top of that foot even with your shin. So sometimes when it comes to this one in particular, there can be a tendency for the foot to want to turn in. And with that, you're probably only going to get most of your sensation within the lower part of the leg. Not a bad thing, but we're working into the hips. So try to keep the top of the foot even with your shin so that pinky edge of the foot stays lifted in a way. And we're trying to bring the whole leg together over toward the left side of the room. If you have good range of motion, get that left leg out of the way and you can move a little bit further, a little bit deeper. But you want to keep that belly button, the chest facing the sky to the best of your ability. And you should be bringing yourself to a point that is comfortable for you. Do not worry about, I don't feel like I went anywhere. I'm not going anywhere. I feel so much, but I didn't go anywhere. Don't worry about how far you move into any space that we are exploring. Because if you are feeling the sensation, that is awesome. That is all we're looking for. If you feel the sensation somewhere within, maybe the low back, maybe the back of that hip, the back of the thigh, the outside of the thigh, maybe even into the lower part of the leg, awesome. You are on track. Maybe even relaxing a little bit extra through the belly gives you a little bit more rotation. That feels good. That feels good. Come on back through center. And nice and slow, go ahead and bring that right knee in toward the chest. Give it a hug. Release that strap. And then just kind of massage your right knee around. Let the arms do the work. Let that right leg feel loosey-goosey. And then just go ahead and extend, or bring that right foot down first, Bring the left foot in to meet the right, and then extend that right leg long. As you extend that right leg long, reach that heel out away from you. And then just bring the left knee in towards the chest for a moment. Sometimes there can be an increase in intensity within the front of that hip with all that folding. And so just give yourself more of a moment to stretch that right leg out long. Don't worry about the sensation within the left leg right now. Just reach that right heel away. Spine's nice and long. And then go ahead and bring the left foot back down to the earth. Right foot comes up to meet it. And then feel free to wiggle the hips, the feet nice and wide, and just kind of wiggle the knees side to side. Loosen up the hips. Doesn't have to be big, doesn't have to be your biggest motion. Just kind of oscillate side to side. And then nice and slow, come back to center. Keeping that right knee bent. Subtle engagement of the core as you bring the left knee in towards your chest. Loop that left foot up. Okay. And then you can lower the leg out in front of you first and start from the ground up. Or once you bring that knee in, if you have good range of motion, you might be able to just kick that leg up toward the sky, move through it, have the process look as it needs to for you. Sometimes how you move intuitively is the best way to go about it. So don't think twice. However you got there, as long as it felt good. And so we're going to start here with just a nice hamstring stretch to start. So tighten that left thigh. Try to keep that left knee straightish. And then we're spending some time here, so no rush to get to that end point or what your end point is today. Right knee can stay bent. You can straighten it out toward the top of the mat. Just know that that's going to make the motion bigger. That might intensify the stretch. Do what feels good for you today. Staying long within the spine. Gentle lift of the low belly. Just supporting your shape here. And as you can see, I have a slight bend in my knee. I have a tendency to hyperextend at least in this knee in particular. So if you have a very soft bend in your knee, that's fine. If you're someone who hyperextends, feel free to do that. I just don't want you looking like this. And again, nothing wrong with that by any means, but today I just want to work through a straighter leg, so that we're able to get that sensation all the way down through the hamstrings, across the back of the knee, versus just in the hip. Keep your breath. Release any tension that you are holding in areas that are not required. And then nice and slow, we're going to allow that left leg to open up. And I did mention this when we were crossing our body, but even here still, you want the top of the foot to stay in line with that shin as much as you're able. That foot can turn in or out, and that can just change the sensation. So try your best to keep that top of the foot neutral, and then open that up as much as you're able. So as the foot drops, maybe you lift. It drops, maybe you lift. And then you can do as I'm doing right now. And right now I'm pretty close to the sliding door. So the pinky edge of my foot is going to rest on the door, and I'm A-okay with that. That allows me to settle in this sensation. And so anywhere from the inner thigh to the hamstring. And if you do have your knee bent, just trying to keep that knee facing towards the sky. Try not to let your hips follow all the way over toward that left side. Keep that right knee toward the sky. Gentle lift of the low belly. Like you're scooping that tailbone underneath you just a pinch. Nothing dramatic. Just enough to keep that low back nice and long. Use that strap to guide your leg back through center. And then that right knee can stay up or down. We're starting to go over toward the right side of the room with that left leg. So switch hands with that strap. And nice and slow, guide it over. So right here, I feel a pretty solid sensation. Sometimes there's a little bit of a little arc of sensation. You might feel it right in the beginning. You might get through a nice little sweet spot. You might relax through the belly, get a little bit further, and then you hit a different spot within the leg. So as you move through your range of motion, that sensation might pop up in different areas. Stop where it feels good for you. And just using that strap to support your shape as much as you can. Relaxing through the belly might allow you to relax through the front of that hip even more. One more breath here. Use that strap, bring you up through center. And then let that knee soften, bring that knee in toward the chest, give that knee a hug. Ditch the strap. And then hug it out. Make some circles with that knee. Relaxing that whole joint space. And then go ahead and bring that left foot down towards the earth. Bring the right foot up to meet it. Switch sides. So bring that right knee in towards the chest. Extend the left leg nice and long. And really reach through that left heel so that you're opening through the front of that hip. Nice and long through the spine. Right foot comes back down to the earth. Slide that left heel back in towards your bottom so that the left foot meets the right. And then scoop that tailbone underneath you. Bring one knee in toward your chest at a time. Give yourself a nice hug. Feel free to roll side to side. Maybe even release the knees away from your body a little bit if that feels nice, to kind of just roll on your low back somewhere that feels good. You can stay here, or if happy baby, if you know happy baby feels good, go ahead and grab hold of the pinky edges of your feet and then rock side to side from this space. And then go ahead and bring the feet back down toward the earth. Go ahead and cross the right ankle over top the left thigh. Gently press that right knee out and open. And then hold on to that right ankle. And then just go ahead and let your shape fall over toward the left side. Maybe that right arm is out and up overhead. Feeling that cross body opening, keeping that right shoulder anchored down. So you're basically just making that figure 4 shape and just letting your shape roll over toward the left side. Feeling a nice sensation through the outer edge of that right hip. Maybe even into the torso a little bit as well. You can chill here if you want to find a little bit more activation. If you know this feels good, gently press the outer edge of that right knee toward the top left corner of the mat. Maybe you feel a nice opening through the front of the right hip. And then go ahead, use the muscles in the belly to help guide the legs back through center. Uncross the right from the left, switching sides. So find your figure 4 to start. Grab hold of that left ankle so that you keep your shape as it tick-tocks over toward the right side of the room. And that left hand can just rest on your belly, ain't no thing. Or you can have the left arm up and overhead. And just breathing into your shape. Gently pressing the outer edge of the left knee toward the top right corner of the mat. Maybe finding a little bit more of an active stretch here, really working deep into that space. And then nice and slow, use the muscles in your belly to come back through center. And then go ahead, uncross the legs, left foot, go ahead and meet the right. Now we're going to go ahead and find our final position of rest here. And there are many of options that can work for you depending, again, on what you feel like you need. So if you have blocks, if you want to feel a little bit of expansion through the front of the hips, and I'm going to give you a ton. It might feel like decision fatigue, but you'll probably hear one and just go for it. So if you have a block, go ahead and find that position down on your back that we were just in, so don't move. And then you're just going to gently bridge the hips up, and you're going to place that block right on your sacrum, right on that lowest part of your spine. And then you're just going to rest here. If you want to bring your feet wide, let your knees knock together. If you want to extend your legs long to really feel that opening, as long as that feels nice and supportive, you have that available. Again, if you're looking for a front body opener, if you would like to rest in a nice open position within your hips, go ahead and come into Supta Baddha Konasana. You can bring the blocks on either side of your mat and just let the knees fall open, but in a nice supportive position here in this space. both of which can be done with pillows as well. And then, last but not least, if you just want to stay in your Shavasana, but staying fully flat is not comfortable for you, go ahead. If you have blocks, again, feasible with blocks, feasible with pillows, or a blanket. Blocks are just a little bit rough around the edges, if you will. So just place your blocks on any height that feels good for you. And just place them together and underneath your knees, and just set yourself up in a way that you are offloading the low back. So your knees are nice and supported, that supports the back, and then your arms fall nice and wide. And then you're just going to hang out here, wherever you are. If you want to do feet up the wall, you're more than welcome to find a wall and have yourself in that kind of position. That can also be a nice way to decompress the low back, as long as you are comfortable getting into that space. You can find the arm of your couch and you can butt yourself up to the edge of your couch and let your legs kind of scoop up in that space, so that you're kind of sitting up against your couch in this kind of fashion with your legs supported by the arm of the chair. Again, if your couch is of adequate height and shape for that to occur. Again, there are lots of options, lots of ways to support yourself. And so just find what works best for you, what your body is calling for, based on how you are showing up to class today. So with that, I'm going to leave you wherever you choose to be, and try to be there for at least 5 to 10 more breaths. Really settle into your space, really feel the benefits of all the movements you explored here in class today. I hope you enjoyed it. Please feel free to like and subscribe and leave a comment if you enjoyed flowing with me today. And I look forward to seeing y'all next time. Have an awesome rest of your day.